Okay. It is podcast time. It is time for the Better Man podcast. We are live in the noon hour with a chance to get better as men. And I hope that you are deciding to get better. I don't think you'd join the podcast if you wanted to stay the same. And I don't think you'd join the podcast if you want to get worse. So I would imagine you are in the right place. And that is all we're trying to do is help some men get better on their spiritual journey and being a man in life. As I spend a little time with you today, I want to remind you that if I share something that you want to comment on, feel free to comment in the comments section. And of course, anytime you like, heart, subscribe, hit the heart button, like button now, share, comment, any of that helps us. Reviews on our audio podcast as well. A bit of news, we did officially go over the 19,000 mark, 19,000 podcasts. I was going to share with you some of the countries that have downloaded our podcast. Ready? Germany, Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, Kenya, Poland, Portugal, Vietnam have all downloaded our podcast just in the last couple of weeks on one of our audio. This is just audio, so I don't know where people are from on the video side, but these are just on the podcast side where we've got Apple, Google, and Spotify. So a bunch of different countries there. And over 19,000 downloads on the audio side. All right. So that doesn't include video views, but it's a pretty cool number there. I want to share with you what we see today is the product of Faithless homes. And if you look around our culture today, you see this, you see trends developing rapidly in our culture today, and they are, in my mind, 100% related to the fact that people are pushing away from faith in the home. Now, I put this on the shoulders of men because, as you know, I believe a man wants to be and is designed to be a leader. And as he leads well, his home follows. As he leads poorly, his home follows. So we know this, men, that if you don't like the outcomes you've got going on in your home, well, then here's what you do. You look at yourself and you start there. You are designed to be the leader of the home. Now, as I share with you some of these struggles that are going on in our culture today, I think it's tied to male leadership, but in general, it's faithless homes, which are tied to failed male leadership. But faithless homes are producing rapidly some very unhealthy results in our kids today. So we have a decrease in faith and an increase in the things I'm about to share astronomically. So what we can see that this widening gap, right, an increase and a decrease in faith. And more than ever before, and I say this at our church all the time, more than ever before, you and I as men and people of faith can look at our world and say, well, you can see the evidence more than ever of godlessness. You can just look at what's happening around. God living versus ungodly living. The gap is widening. It is so obvious and clear for you and I as men and Christians to say, can you not see? It's pretty obvious. Can't you see exactly the brokenness in our culture as we pushed away from faith? Let's talk about some of these. I'm going to point to our kids because they are the great example of where brokenness is taking place. Hello, Aaron. I see you. Hello, Daryl and Mark. You're watching. Here's issue number one. We see in our culture today a huge increase of anxiety and stressed out children. Anxiety, this is on the increase. The meds, depression as well, the meds that kids are needing, the anxiety they are feeling, the brokenness that kids are feeling today, just on the inside as we pushed away from faith, all of that's increased. Our kids are dealing with more anxiety, stress, and depression than ever before. They come out of broken homes. Their parents are living in chaos. Their parents are dealing in stress, and that stressful living gets onto our children. I shared a testimony at our church the other day where a woman had shared with me how she's realizing her stressed out living is now being picked up by her children. And so the more we push away from dependency on God, the more anxiety and stress we encounter. And our kids watch that and they see that and they live it out. So our kids are more stressed today. Here's the next thing. Our kids are more materialistic than ever before. They have to have the possessions. They have to have all the things. They want all the things that their parents have more than ever before. Their parents are living in a materialistic way. They have pushed away from dependency on God. Now things are defining them, and our kids see it. And so what we see is the research today, I'm just pulling up some resources here from a magazine called Young Time Magazine, and it's just talking about the youth of our culture today. And what they're saying is that there's more materialism than ever before. And yeah, just look around. No, our kids are not depending on God. They are not. They're just, it's not a part of their life any longer. And I'm talking about broadly, maybe not some of you watching this podcast, but broadly, parents are shoving God into the corner and their kids are more materialistic. Here's the next thing. Our kids are more gender confused than ever before. Okay, so we know in faith, in the deepening of our faith, gender identity is very clear. And through Jesus Christ, we understand our identity. Remember this. Let me give you this statement. Where there is confusion, God is not there. Let me say that again. Where there is confusion, God is not there. God is not the author of confusion. God is the author of clarity. And if you seek him, you will find him. And when you find him, you will know the truth. And when you know the truth will set you free. And you will know the truth about who you are as a human being. I am not here to be mean, nothing like that. It's just God is not in chaos and confusion, and he brings order. And in the scriptures, he brings order to human sexuality. Doesn't mean we can't love. We absolutely should love children who are struggling in sexual confusion. But the numbers tell us now. I think I saw a piece of data the other day that something like 25% of kids in high school today say they're confused about their sexual identity. Yeah, increase in shoving God in the corner, decrease in faith, increase in chaos in the home. It's just the way it goes. Okay, so if you want to argue it with me, you can, but you'll lose because the data is now backing all of this up. Here's another one. We have an increase in obesity in our children today. This, you could say, well, what's that got to do with faith? Well, maybe in some ways, not much at all. But I think what we find is in healthy homes, all right? In healthy homes, what we find is active homes. In healthy homes, we find a desire to do things, to find identity. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but obesity is on the rise. And I think just failed homes in general are doing that, and failed homes are a product of a lack of faith. So I just think that's a real thing. And again, I think the data backs it up. Here's another thing we have an increase in addictions. Our youth today is more addicted to drugs and alcohol than they've ever been. Of course, vaping, cigarettes as well, but tobacco use, drugs, alcohol, all on a rapid increase in our youth. We put such an effort when I was younger and to say no to drugs and all that, and keeping kids off of cigarettes. We saw a decline in all that. Well, now we see a huge increase as people are pushing away from dependency on God. They must now depend on another God. And the way they're depending on another God is through various ways. And one of them is absolutely, it is a dependency on substances. And so, yeah, push away from a family that depends on God and watch what happens. Just watch it. There's a void, all right? And it's filled by godlessness. So there's an increase in substance abuse in faithless homes. I'll tell you something else. There's an increase in pornography. Pornography today amongst our kids. Okay, we're shoving God in the corner and pornography is increasing along the way. The average age a child is now exposed to pornography is now 11 years old. I think it's lower amongst boys and higher, slightly higher amongst girls. But in the end of the day, there's a heavy exposure to pornography. Again, let's shove God out of the home. Let's let the enemy infiltrate in every way possible. And let's watch pornography increase. Absolutely. And let me give you one last thing. And this is going to maybe seem controversial at first, but the data backs it up. Violence in our schools. Let's talk about first, not just gun violence. Let's just talk about violence in general. The rage, the fighting in general. Rage is in our children. Where does that rage come from? Where does their anger come from? What's boiling on the inside? It's a lot of brokenness and hurt. Where does the brokenness and hurt come from? Oftentimes, the humanity they do life with the most. And so oftentimes it's in their home life. And so much of violence and brokenness, disrespect in the schools is coming from broken homes and oftentimes faithless homes. Not always there. Here's what the data tells us, though, about gun violence that we've seen in school and gun violence in our culture today. There are a lot of arguments about guns and just that word gun violence, right? How can a gun commit violence? No, it's the person that is committing the violence, so there's that argument there. I'm not even here to get into that in Second Amendment things. I'm here to tell you, though, that faithless, godless homes are oftentimes where we find the root of some of these folks that are committing violence with guns in our culture today, other weapons as well. And so when we push away from that stability, right? The foundation. This is not that I know that somebody could say, well, in this 1 out of 100 case, maybe it was different, but I think it's safe to say that 99 or 99.9% of those cases, there was godlessness somewhere in their childhood or deep family brokenness. And so, folks, I'm just sharing with you some of the increases of ailments in our culture today and how they can be tied to broken homes and faithless homes. And of course, poor leading fathers. That's all I had to share. It's a lot, and it's all the reason more we ought to be digging into our faith as fathers. Let me pray. God, we are learning to be better men. And we know that we have the evidence that life with God always has victory over a godlessness. And it's just going to, in the long run, produce victory. And so, God, I pray that these men would take this serious, that they would become faith-filled men and lead their families into faith-filled living. The alternative is absolutely ugly. And so I pray for these men and their strength in Jesus' name. Amen. I'll see you all on Friday.